Welcome to the scholarship interview prep. We'll be guiding you through the basics and in any questions, feel free to ask them. We have persons here who are admins of the group that you're a part of, and they are able to answer the questions. So don't be shy. You can ask in the chat. You can ask publicly. You can open your mic and speak. We welcome that. I'm Kenisha Henry, and we're being powered by e-Biome services today. This service allows us to have an unlimited time to talk to you today. So we're supposed to wrap up in a few minutes. We just want this to be quick. So it's Sunday, you want to get ready, have your dinner, and enjoy the rest of the day. So we want this to be really quick. So let's jump right into it. All right, so next slide, please, Delmar. So here are our facilitators today. Kenisha Henry, which is me. I'm Kenisha Henry. Richard Palmer. Richard, can you say hi to the people, please?
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Okay, we also have Joel Morgan. Hi, Joel. Can you open the mic, please? Let them know that you're here.
Hi, everyone.
We have Aishiba Cornwall as well. Aishiba, big up the people.
Hey guys, big up yourself.
Aishiba. And we have Amika. Amika, are you here?
Hey guys, I'm good.
We have Armani as well. Armani, let's hear you make some noise.
Hello everyone. Good night. Good morning. Oh crap. Good evening.
And we have Delmar, who is, the one sharing his screen. Delmar, let the people know you're here.
Yes, everybody, I'm here. I'm here.
So the persons on the panel today are persons who've had experience in this, of course. Persons who have been recipients of scholarships, persons who have been through the interview process, persons who interviewed as well. And so, we are very equipped to assist you with your preparation process. So the next slide, please, Delmar. Okay, so the first thing we'll go into are the tips that you should consider while going into the interview. Okay, so I'll take the first slide and I'll tag over to my next teammate for the next slide. So the first point, be honest, open, and relaxed in the interview. We know that you might be, a bit nervous preparation process, but it's always good to try to remain relaxed. Find something to think about whenever you get nervous, but don't pause in the interview. Be honest as well, because you're invited to the interview to make stuff more clear about why you're applying, make the things on your application more clear. So they want you to be honest. This is not the time to be lying or trying to, boost up your application when they have all the information that they need in front of them. Be polite and punctual. So be early. So if the interview is 4 o'clock, be there 3:30 the latest, right? That shows that's really a good look for you. Whenever you're early, people take note of it, and it shows that you're respecting their time. Be polite. So when you go into the interview, you might be nervous, but it's always good to say good morning, smile when you're saying good morning, and also don't sit before they invite you to sit. That's a kind of unspoken rule.
And next thing, Kenisha, before you move on, in terms of being early, you guys need to remember when you're early, suppose the interviewers or the person who are hosting the scholarship session, they decide to change something, or a few persons who were to go before you did not show up. That's the reason why you need to be early, because things can change and anything can happen. So you need to be early.
Excellent point. Thanks so much. I with persons that are interviewing. So if you're in the interview and you might get nervous because eye contact, you might get a little cringy. Don't feel free not just stare at one person. If you're answering a question, start with the person that answered the question, and then move over to another person so that you're engaging the entire room and they feel like they're having a conversation with you. And if you do feel a bit nervous, then don't look right into their eyes. Perhaps look at their forehead, or perhaps at their nose, look at the space in between their eyes, probably the wall behind them, because you have to remain calm. You have to remain calm and ensure that you maintain excellent posture while seated. So don't slouch, even if you feel the most comfortable slouching. You can't be doing that. No, you have to remain, ensure that your spine is touching the back of your chair as best as possible, but not to the point where you'd feel uncomfortable. So just don't slouch. Next slide, please, and over to you, Delmar.
So sorry about this, guys. I have to do this. All right, so remember, guys, to speak slowly, not slouch, like just slow enough to ensure that you are communicating clearly. Because suppose the person asks me a question, what is your name? And I say this, my name is DELMAR SQUIRE. They do not know me, and the person is going to be like, can you repeat what you just said? And they'll be like repeating. Because when you're speaking so fast, you may be saying something that you do not want to say, or you do not want to come out. It may be stuck, or maybe like words come out or they're not supposed to be pronounced and those things. So you need to speak not slowly like a slug, but you need to speak with a moderate pace so that everybody can hear what you're saying. And please remember that we're in a COVID-19 time now, and we're doing scholarship interviews, so the persons are going to be spaced out. Now, the next thing you need to do is to project your voice. They are 6 feet, because I remember going into a scholarship interview, and the persons were really spaced out. No, you need to project your voice. You don't want the person down at the other end to say, can you speak a bit louder, please? Because that person is going to be turned off. That person is immediately going to say, you know what? This person do not know what they're doing. So they're automatically going to give you a failing grade. Now you need to allow your, so you need to allow your responses to be a combination of ideal responses and your genuine answer. No, what do we mean by this? No, an ideal response, basically, and a genuine answer is basically an answer and a response that is perfect. No, somebody asks me, like, what is my aspiration? I cannot say I aspire to be Batman. What they want me to say is something that they know and scholarship recipient would say. I aspire to be like Bob Marley. I aspire to be like Andrew Holness. I aspire to be like Michelle Obama. Somebody or something that you look up or something of value. So that's how you'll respond questions with ideal and genuine answers. Genuine answers are things that they know that you can do, things that can work, things that is a must of you that is required. Now the next thing you do not rush to answer each question. You break down the questions into different sections. I go back to my experience. I did an interview last week, and they asked the question, and the question were jumbled. So the question was, we see this on your application. We want you to tell us about this, that. All the questions were jumbled. Now, what I did, I remember to slow down my speech, to take my time, and to project my voice. But one thing that I made sure that I did not rush to answer each question, because I know that I must have an ideal and a genuine answer. So I broke down the questions into different sections. The one that you know that after I say this, I can flow into this question, right? So my name is DELMAR SQUIRE. I am a student coming from Calabar High School. I aspire to be this. What are my hobbies? My hobbies are this. What do I ask? So you see that they're flowing. I use my proper connecting words. We call them conjunctions. I use those transition words. So I made sure that each of my answers were flowing and I'm answering all of the questions that were given to me, right? So that's just my point of view.
Okay, so over to the next member of our team.
Okay, so I guess I'll take these ones. So do your research on the scholarship provider to be familiar with the goal of the provider and also the kind of recipients they're looking for. So if you're going to an interview, any sort of interview that you're going to, it's always good to be prepared. So you want to research, you want to read up on the organization that is giving the scholarship. Remember that they want to reveal your character and mindset in the interview. So generally when you're doing a scholarship interview, people want to get to know you the person who is behind the application. You know, on paper, they have all this information about you, but can you, you know, express this? Something that you always want to do when you're revealing character and mindset in an interview, you want to be sure you know how to present yourself. Usually the first thing they're going to ask you is, tell us about yourself, probably. You want to be sure that you master telling somebody about yourself. It's not just this cliche, my name is, I go to this school, etc. You want to think about something that you're going to tell them that is going to reveal who you are as a person, as an individual. You know, if you have leadership traits, leadership positions, academic performance, you want to be telling them giving them a wholesome package of who you are as a person and not just the basics, my name is, because that's on the form already. You want to listen keenly to the questions being asked and then give direct responses. I think DELMAR alluded to this. It's very important to answer what is asked of you and how you think is being asked. So you have to listen keenly to the questions and then respond accordingly. If the question is lengthy, as DELMAR said, you break them down in your head and you answer in such a way that your answers, they're connected and they flow into each other. I also want to advise you to avoid cliche responses. So for example, if they ask you, who is your role model? Don't say your mom, don't say your dad. That's like very cliche. You want to say somebody who you can expound on, because chances are the person's interviewing you, they don't know your parents. So when you say, oh, my mother, because she's hardworking, and that's very cliche. Now, if you're studying science, maybe you can say, oh, I want to be like Albert Einstein because he founded this theory and he did this and he did that. And I believe that, you know, pursuing this course of study, it will help me to do X, Y, and Z. That gives the person more insight. The person is now able to see that, oh, this person is aware. He knows about his career path, you know, persons who are influential in this particular area. So it's very important to listen to the questions and don't just think about giving cliche responses. Think about preparing responses that go beyond the cliche level. And then try to limit straying from the point and beating around the bush. That's also very important, because you don't want to just be there babbling on the question. Get to the point and stop. Sometimes you feel tempted to expound. If you feel like you've answered the question, just stop and don't get into repeating yourself and going around the bush and then straying too much from what they've asked you to respond to.
Hey, Richard, did you see the question being asked in the chat? Somebody's asking, what if your cliche response is the truth?
So here, my thing with cliche responses, sometimes cliche responses are good. Sometimes the cliche responses are not so good. So it's for you to assess the situation and say, okay, what can I do now? Do I think I should give a cliche response or not? And even so, sometimes you need to understand this is a competition. You don't have any time to be cliche. Chances are everybody's going to come, oh, my mother is my role model. Oh, my father is my role model. Oh, I want to do this, or I want to change the world. Or you want to be different in your response. So it's always good to think about, think about how you're going to make your cliche, even if it's going to be cliche, how is your cliche going to be a different form of cliche from what everybody else is probably planning to come and tell the panel.
Okay, thank you so much, Richard. Over to you, Joelle, on the next slide.
Okay, don't be afraid to ask them to repeat the question. This minimizes misinterpretation and thus minimizes the risk of you giving a completely incorrect response. So I definitely agree with this. I think I asked them to repeat once in the interview that I had last year, but it's okay if you ask them to repeat, just don't do it too often, because that can also show that you're not paying attention as well. So even though you can, just don't do it too often, but you can do it to gain clarity on what they're asking and to think about how you will answer. Hello? And secondly, Even if the tone of the interview becomes conversational, ensure that you are still giving direct responses. So don't get too comfortable in the interview to the point where you're talking to them as if you're talking to your friend, because you have to remember it's still a scholarship interview. It's still you competing with other persons. Yes, so be formal to an extent.
Okay, thank you, Joelle. Next slide. Aisha, what could you take it away?
Sure. So speak about the positive aspects of your character or your life. If you do bring up a negative scenario, ensure that you can redirect it to a positive narrative. But true. Now, if you're in the interview and we know, say, you get a question where, boy, I want one very sad answer, Yagagi, like nobody really likes a sob story. And in order for you to change a negative into a positive is a really good look for you. All right, so ensure that you try to do that. So at the end, you can ask a question too and ensure that they are well thought out. At the end of every interview, even that I have done, they always ask you to ask a question. Now, I remember the other day, it's not necessarily scholarship interview, but I was being interviewed by the CEO for a youth marketing agency, and he asked, do you have any questions for me? And I asked a question, and he was like, you know that you're the first person who, asked me that question, very important question. And so, I kind of get a little props for that because nobody else asks a question. In addition to that, the question that I asked, it was not cliche. It was a genuine question coming from me. I really wanted to know, and I guess he really appreciated that. So, try to make your questions not cliche and a little genuine, because genuineness is in all year round. I always say this. Throughout the interview, try to be genuine as possible, as much as possible.
Thank you
Next
so
slide.
much, Aishi. But that's so great points. Great points being dished out right here. I hope we're taking notes, everybody. So next slide, please. We're throwing it right over to Miss AMICA.
Okay, so ensure you're well groomed. Very important. You can't go looking very snobby. Limit extravagant hand movements. Personally, the second one, I had to literally had a mind. Like I literally had to process this one and think about it very hard when I was going first, because I'm known from my friends to be one that's very expressive and use a lot of hand gestures. So if you're probably like me, you might want to limit that a bit. Let your responses be personal. Let your responses show how you've been molded. Right. Very important. Very important.
All right. So for the last point, let your responses be personal and let your responses show how you've been molded. This one basically means if you're going to give an example of how you did this or that throughout your high school years or throughout your first year in university or whatever, show how this experience has made you the person that you are today. Tell them how, show them how you're a better person now, or show them how this experience has made you a fit person to be considered a recipient of this scholarship, right? So next slide, please. Thank you so much, AMICA. Those were excellent points as well. Armani, could you take away this one?
All right, so good evening, everyone. Smile comfortably when responding to questions. It shows that you're confident and you're ready to take on the challenge. You have to basically, it's a type of body language that shows you're comfortable and you're ready to take on the challenge and that you're welcoming to the scholarship committee. Don't frown because it's going to show a level of like you don't want to do it or you're uncomfortable or you're nervous. You can't show those things. You have to be confident in your shoes. If you forget what you practice or get a new question, just improvise and give your best answer. Think on your feet. As I said, remember, keep it personal. Give an experience. If you don't remember what to do, think of the most comfortable thing that you remember and that is relatable. And also, please don't be cliche. You have to try to uplift the person that you're talking to. Give a story that really reflects the situation. And remember to be honest as well. Stay truthful. Step in and radiate confidence. Very important. You can't come in shy and nervous. Remember, scholarship people, this is a lot of money we're dealing with. They want to make sure that the person getting it is a born leader and wants to make change in their country or wants to do something that have impact on others. So people like that, obviously, they're confident. So we're going to need to emulate some confidence and not arrogance.
Excellent point. Confidence, not arrogance. Next slide, please, Delmar. Okay, I'll take this one. So be prepared for them to ask questions specific to clubs, societies, and voluntary involvements. So if you said that you were in Girls Guides in first form and if you put that on your, application, be prepared for them to ask about what you did in Girls Guide because you must be truthful in everything on the application. So you should not be surprised when they ask you anything about your involvements. If you said that you volunteered, if you say in bold, David Bennett to refurbish the whole Amorant Bay, well, you need to be able to explain how you got opportunity, etc. You must be able to speak on all the things that you mentioned in your application. There was questions specific to things in your essay and application. So yeah, as I stated above, don't contradict. So if you said you volunteered to refurbish all of Montego Bay, and then you come in the interview and say, oh, it actually wasn't Montego Bay, it was actually Portmore, then that show that you're not honest, you're not truthful. So this would go back to the point that you must be honest and truthful in your interview. Next slide, please, Delmar. Thank you. So common interview questions, we're getting into the more juicy stuff. So stuff that you can expect your interviewer to ask. You might not get them directly in the way it's written, but they can switch the wording. And don't be sidetracked if they do. Remember the essence of the response and not the question itself. So go right ahead, Delmar. Let's jump into it. So Joelle, here are a set of questions that people would love you to expound on.
Okay, Kanisha. Tell us about yourself. As was previously mentioned, I'm not sure if Richard mentioned it, but don't give them all of your personal details about your life story or what you did when you were 5 years old. So give them professional information about yourself. So state your name. It's optional if you want to state your age, but you can speak about your financial situation, your involvement, and what you're really passionate about. Yes, basically that's mostly what you're really passionate about. Where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years? Scholarship persons want to ensure that the persons they're giving the scholarship to has a vision and a plan to do something important in their life. So they want to know that you would give a meaningful impact after you get the scholarship because they're making an investment in you. So they want to know that you will benefit society as a whole. How will this scholarship or grant allow you to get there? You can state the financial benefits of the scholarship. And again, this is where you can state your financial hardships and how it will help to offset that. And this scholarship or grant, you can speak about how it can allow you to be a role model in certain aspects of your life and how you can further impact your community or even your society. what is one of your greatest accomplishments and why? This one is self-explanatory. But not only can you state your greatest accomplishments, you can also state how it has impacted other persons. So for instance, if one of your greatest accomplishments was to volunteer at a children's home, for instance, you can explain how the children benefited from your volunteering. And also, what is an obstacle that you have overcome? That one is also self-explanatory. Don't give cliche answers. Yeah, don't give cliche answers about this. And if you are going to state, after you state the obstacle, you can state how you've overcome it and what you've learned from it and how you can assist other persons if possible to deal with that.
Okay, thank you so much, Joelle.
All right, so good afternoon again. So my questions are: why should I be a recipient of this scholarship? No, when answering a questions like this, do not run and tell the person that I should be a recipient of this scholarship because I am broke and I want money. No, automatically that's a turn off. No, you have scholarships and you have foundations. Scholarships are just given out you have some scholarships that are given out in person's name. You have some foundations that give out scholarship. Now, if it's given out in somebody's name, tell them that you want to continue the great work that the person have been doing. Not in the sense that it's a musician that's giving out the scholarship, you want to be a music person. You want to continue something good about the person, or you want to tell them that you should be a recipient of this scholarship because this scholarship is given out to persons who do this and do that. Somebody who's of a strong academic ability, somebody who's academically able while still being able to can multitask. They're looking for that, because we have persons who are bright, but they have bright persons who are stay at home and don't mix. Most scholarship persons, they want to see that you're able to do your academics and you can multitask by doing extracurricular activities. So tell them that you can get this scholarship because it help you in life, yes, but why should you get this? Because it will basically help to offset some financial issues, but at the same time you're able to can do this. Basically you can do extracurricular activities and not worrying, and can continue in the name of somebody who is giving out the scholarship, who we are getting the scholarship because of their organization. Now, what are some of your most outstanding traits? Now, as we said before, we have cliche answers. You have some persons that are going to say that they are good at football or they can do this. We know this because we know that some person will put this in the list down at the end of the scholarship where they ask you for your hobbies. No, the outstanding traits are you can tell them that you're good at communicating with others. You're good at doing something that they'll be wowed at. But please to know that when you do answer this question, they're going to ask you to expound. Some of them will ask you to expound. Tell them a scenario, tell them a situation in which these outstanding traits have become helpful to you. Now, what makes you different from other shortlisted candidates? Now, this is basically asking, why do you think they have selected you? Right? So as this question is basically straightforward, why do you think they have selected you or shortlisted you? You can just tell them something, do not go in depth and blah, 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 because I this, I am that. You're basically putting yourself too high. So you're basically telling them that you're more than this, you're more than that. You don't want to go too high and you don't want to go too short. You don't want to go in the middle. You want to go the middle top. So you want to be right there in the sense that you want to give them everything of why you are shortlisted, why you think you're shortlisted. You don't know why I'm shortlisted, but at the same time you want to wow them. Now, how have you contributed to your community? Now, we have persons like me who don't go outside, right? But we don't go outside at all. But we have different community. You have church community, home community, and our school community. Now, at some point, you must have contributed to one of these communities. Now, I don't contribute in my home community, but I contribute at school. So you can tell them, oh, you have contributed at your school. Now you have persons who go to church. How have you contributed at church, and how have you contributed at home? Now, when doing this, now you're basically telling them that yes, you're doing good at school because they have already seen this on their application that you have sent in and submitted to them. Now they want to know, what do you do in your spare time, your free time? So this is really why they ask you, how have you contributed? Our next question is, why are you interested in studying this specific course? Why you want to be a lawyer? Why you want to be a doctor? Don't tell them say you want to be a doctor because being a doctor you're going to be able to take care of your family. Don't tell me you want to be a lawyer because being a lawyer, you get to do this, you get to do that. Why? What makes you so interested in being a doctor? Because you want to take care of those who are those who are ill. Why? Why? You want to this is a question that you will basically expound on, and you'll give the adjectives to describe. Because why are you interested? You're going to go give them a good adjective, some good adjectives, why you want to do a specific course. So that's basically how I would respond to these questions.
All right, and before we go over the last one that speaks about why are you interested in studying this specific course? For example, somebody might want to be a doctor because you like to help people and stuff like that. That's very, it's kind of, cliche. Instead of saying that, try to think of a problem that you as a doctor could solve in your field. So, for example, you notice that right now in Jamaica, there are more doctors that are jobs for doctors. So you want to not only be a person to provide quality health care to patients all over America and even the world or the Caribbean, but you also want to study so that you can be put in a position to make jobs for other doctors. You want to increase this market or this field so that other persons can be employed in it. You want to expand. So even if it's not being say for example it's being a marine biologist, right now Jamaica is low on those. We don't have a lot of those people. You want to become a marine biologist and then create your own consultancy or something of the sort in order to make jobs for other people. They want to know that you have nation building in mind, right? So you love this, you're interested in doing this because you grew up with a passion for it or whatnot, or you discovered your love for it in high school or whatnot. I apologize for the dog in the background, but you also want to let them know that you are interested in this problem in your country or in the world that you want to put yourself in the position to fix. Yeah, next slide please. So these are mine. Right, so what are 2 projects that you did that helped you choose your career path? So for example, you want to be, well, they might say what is a project, maybe not 2, but they might ask a question along this line. For example, you want to be a journalist. What's something that you did that helped you choose this career path? Maybe when you were younger, you used to read a lot of newspapers, and then you started a book drive for your community. You understood the importance of disseminating information, the importance of enlightening others, and something of the sort. So you did this book drive because you had such and such a passion, and realizing this passion, the power of knowledge and whatever, you wanted to put yourself in this position to again contribute to expanding the knowledge of persons in Jamaica or the world. So you did a book drive, okay, with this in mind, and because you had this goal in mind, which is to provide knowledge for all, you chose to be a journalist. So that's how you can connect the dots. There are ways to go about it, but that's one way. So what would you specialize in after obtaining your degree? So for example, I'll go back to the doctor response. You're going to do, I don't really know much about doctoring, but say for example you want to be a biochemist, right? And you will have a biochemistry degree, a degree in pure and applied biochemistry. But what would you do after getting that degree? You want to specialize, for example, in the research of plant biology. You want to specialize in here and there. So it's pretty self-explanatory. They want to know what exactly you plan to do with the degree. They don't want to just know that you have it, but how you plan to use it and in what field you plan to use it in. And the field you plan to use it in. How will the degree be used to improve the lives of others? So stated earlier with the doctor response, you're interested in doing the field, in entering this field because of these reasons and solve this problem in your country. So identify a problem in your country, identify a problem that your degree or your course of study can help solve, then expound on it here. How many people, oh, they might ask you household questions because they want to find out about your financial status and how your family life and what your family life is like actually. So how many people are living in your house? How many go to school? How many work? This is self-explanatory. Just be prepared to let them that. So Aishiba said in the chat, what sets you apart? You can expound on your strengths and maybe how your values align with the foundation's values. That's very important as well. That's very important. That's why you should do your research on the foundation or the scholarship provider so that when you're in the interview and you're answering some of the questions, you're aware of their goals, you're aware of the things that the values that they hold dearly, and you can align responses along those. Don't make them be carbon copies of what they've written in their manifesto or project outline, but they can be influenced by those to show them that you're the ideal candidate that they're looking for. Next slide, please, Delmar. Delmar?
Okay. All right. So why do you want this scholarship? Yes. So this is a very serious question. I would say first, I think somebody alluded to this earlier, but first, I think you should look at the type of scholarship it is. So some scholarships are need-based, while some scholarships are merit-based, right? And so if it's a merit-based scholarship, sometimes you expounding on your need and all of that might not be as relevant. As well as if it's a need-based scholarship, you overall, whether it's need or base, you shouldn't come off too proud or arrogant or whatever. You should always remain confident, but at the same time humble. And yes, so you should stand out by being humble and appreciative. Try to create a balance between promoting yourself while remaining humble. You don't want to seem as if you have to get the scholarship or whatever. You want the scholarship because of focus on the criteria, right? So if it's because of a great need that you have, or and not just in the present, talk about future as well. How you see this scholarship can help you to achieve your goals. It's not just your short-term goals, but achieving your long-term goals. And in explaining that, you would give them examples. So be as specific as possible. Don't just say, oh, I want to be very successful in the future, or whatever. As stated before, they like to see that you're a visionary. They like to see that you know what you're about. You have your goals set out, and you know what you hope to achieve. And in talking about your goals, it's always important to not just focus on yourself, but how them helping you or how their investment in you is investing in a wider community, investing in Jamaica as a whole. And so in explaining all of this, ensure that you give specific examples, specific things that you probably want to do in the future. So it wouldn't just be, oh, you want it because you need money or whatever, but speak about things, legit things that you might want to achieve in the upcoming years, or how you want to give back to a certain thing or whatever. As well as, importantly, in explaining all of this, a general tip would be not to use words like I really or I'm very good, or things like that. Instead of saying like very good, you say exceptional, or so that's general tips for that one. Why do you want this scholarship? The next one, for describing your family life. Oftentimes, when they ask a question like this, they want to see, right? They want to see potential struggles or potential what you have, yeah, your family space, and so they probably want to know how many persons at home are working. How you probably have a big family where you probably have a lot of siblings that are probably younger than you. I know personally they asked me that, like how many siblings you have and how the age is how many in school, because you know the parents would probably have to support a lot if they're still in school versus if a lot of your siblings are working and stuff. So who you live with, you talk about who you live with. Um, they'd probably want to know, but not probably, they'd want to know the position of all the persons that you live with or where they work or stuff like that. So you just tell them things like that. For financial situation now, for financial situation, you point out to them the jobs of your parents primarily, what your parents do, and any relevant family circumstances that you might be in at the moment. So if your parents are unemployed, if your parents just recently lost a job, or anything else that might show them that yes, this person definitely. And this goes mostly for the need-based scholarship. The knowledge, another thing about financial situation is that you need to be knowledgeable of the expenses that you incur. Yeah, personally, they asked me how much for, they even asked about transportation costs, and it's very important to know, to do research on. So you need to do research on your goals and all of that, as well as you need to know how much tuition, how much boarding, if you might need boarding, or transportation costs or other things. They could just ask for need, just to know. And so it would be good for you to be there wondering in your head, oh my gosh, how much would that cost or something. So it's good to know before. Right. Most importantly, when you explain your financial situation, especially if it's very sad, like oh your parents unemployed or something like really drastic and very sad, important is to always end on a positive note, be optimistic, and speak about the fact that you know all of this, with all of this, you're still able to do schoolwork and everything, and how you've even assisted other persons, and how you'll be able in the future to show other persons how they overcome and things like that. So be optimistic, give optimistic responses, and of course just be truthful and genuine. So you have to create a good balance between not being too dreary, not be like creating a sob story, refrain from creating sob stories, but just pointing out the situation and the obstacles and such. The next one is expound on the academic journey. So they already have on your application, they already know all your achievements, and they already know how much subjects you have and your grades and such. And so you probably just give a little briefing about it again, but this time expound more. And I feel like a good way to tackle this question is to, when you're talking about your achievements, you speak about potential obstacles that you probably face in achieving what you achieved and how you overcame it. It's good also to talk about maybe if you were able to even help other friends to achieve their goals while on your academic journey.
Anika,
Hello, yes, I'm here.
Anika, you could also say something like how you're able to balance or prioritize your schoolwork
Right.
with all these activities to like contribute to how well you are in terms of what's that word again? Time management. Because you know, university is about balancing a lot of things. So they're basically looking for candidates who can manage their time effectively and wisely.
Right, exactly. So thank you. That was the next point I think I had. Right, he just said. So tell them how you prepared, how you prepare time management, organization, your whole academic journey. Go more in depth so they can see the type of person you are, how you tackle schoolwork, how organized you are, and all of that. Another point I'd say the academic journey is that give credit where it's due. Yeah, give credit where it's due. you're the person that gives credit, where you give credit to persons who assisted you, that you didn't just come through this academic journey and it's all about you and whatever. Knowledge those that help you, even teachers or other.
Amica? Amica, your mic is off.
Oh, I didn't do
your
that.
mic
I
is
don't
back
know
on.
what happened. I don't know what happened. All right. So in doing that, it shows that you're not selfish and you're not totally serious. The last one, which is pretty much expounding on your leadership or extracurricular involvement, not just listing them out. They want to know probably activities, specific activities or projects that you worked on, and examples of maybe something impactful that you're able to achieve while walking in that position. What kind of reputation you left, what difference you made, any creative ways. So example, maybe you're a treasurer of a club and you came up with some brilliant idea, so really funny or something. And overall, I said be humble. So in all of this, you're not going to be boastful and saying, yeah, I did this and that, but find a humble way to say all of these. So yeah, give examples. Give examples are good so they can see. So think about situations, scenarios from school or even church where you did something that shows your leadership capability, rather than just telling them that, yeah, I have excellent leadership capability. So that's it. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much for the words of wisdom, Amika. Over to Aishiba.
Good afternoon again, everyone. So for the next question, it is what co-curricular activity have you participated in that makes you stand out and the right candidate? All right. Why are you participating and why are you even here? Why are you the best candidate for this scholarship? Now, I kind of broke this down, guys, to see to get what I was trying to say from it. So I had that you could talk about stuff like sports that you would have participated in that could show your overall interest or your hobbies to show them, all right, you're a sports person, cool. Kind of contrast the whole sportsiness, if that's a word, with community service, right? So it looks good if you know that you're somebody who plays lacrosse, but you are probably also an interact club or T club that does a lot of giving back, right? So it shows you as this type of balanced individual or balanced student. Community service, it shows that you are appreciative of civic engagement, and it shows the donors that you are all about nation building. You understand? I also had another example as it relates for me personally. I was a part of cadets. So it shows me, all right, being a part of cadet, I learned a few things. It made me disciplined, and it taught me some different things as it relates to public speaking, and again, my public speaking skills from that. And I could also put on it that, all right, I was also a regional public relations officer in the National Secondary Students Council, and that would have talked about my advocacy and what I did for students on a regional or a national level. All right, so if we're moving on to the next question, it says, what do you know about the person or organization, foundation or entity providing the scholarship grants or financial aid? So basically right here, we went through this already, you know, so we spoke about knowing who you're going to. You need to know the scholarship donor or the entity or whoever giving the grant. You need to read up on them. I need to know every single thing about them. So in this now, you can talk about the company's core values, as I had said earlier, their mission statement and their vision, and you can try to link your personal values, but always be genuine when you're trying to do this. So first of all, we don't want no cliche answers, and we don't want any fake answers. Always try to be as genuine as possible. Okay, the next question is, how can you contribute to the mandate of the person or organization or foundation or entity offering the scholarship? All right, so a lot of the times, I don't know if you know for Sagicor, they usually do a lot of volunteer work and giving back. So how can you basically give help out Sagicor Foundation in doing them something there? How you can contribute to fit them mandate? If their mandate is all right, we love to engage in civic responsibility and contribute to the education or the health sector, whatever. How can you as a candidate, as an individual, contribute to that? Now, for me, I am passionate about nation building, right? But more specifically, where I'm concerned, I'm more about digital marketing because I become a digital marketing strategist. So I would say, all right, cool. I love content creation. I love strategy, social media management. Maybe when Sagicor Foundation or whichever foundation is possibly give my skill or give my time in creating work for them this project. Suppose me I want photographer, I could have go participate, help take them nice to picture, create the content for them that they can share on social media. But how you can use your skills and so on to contribute to their mandate. The next question is describe the ideal recipient of this scholarship. Now, this question is kind of like describing yourself, but not describing it. Right? So it is basically telling you to tell them about your strengths. What do you think that they're looking for? And whatever or it should be you, right? So you can say the ideal recipient should be an individual who they're not only about academic, you know, they're not academically inclined only, but they should show contribute to the community the same way foundation does that, right? So if you do the same Sagicor thing, you have to, all right, Sagicor Foundation contribute to the society by doing this, whatever. Oh, I use my skills. You should get a candidate who uses their skills to contribute to the community the same way X and X Foundation do that. They should be able to demonstrate excellent leadership and communication skills. This foundation or entity passion and who is focused and are aware of their professional goals, right? So those are some of the things that you can say for that question. Now, the last question asks, how would you encourage someone to study at this institution? This may be asked if the scholarship provider is your university. So what are the pros to studying at the university? What can you come up with? If there are, as they say, you tell to somebody else that would that you'd want to come to UE. So you are going to UE. Now you could say something like, all right, cool. UE is ranked among the best in the world. And you could have gone and talked about the pros of UE and how UE is awesome and talk about why you chose UE to study, or talking about the pros of going to UE, as I said, talk about experiencing a diverse and vibrant community with amazing opportunities. So basically, you just tell them why you personally chose to go to UE and then talk about the niceness, because they want to know that you know what UE is all about. You get what I'm saying? So, you know, just if it's a scholarship from the university, you know, just want. Wait, I'm seeing some messages coming in, but I'm not seeing them completely. But yeah, you just talk about the pros as it relates to that. So yeah, that's the end of the questions for me. Thank you.
All right, before we go to the next slide, there was a question asked by Mr. Larmond to Richard. Do you think one will be at a disadvantage if their parents are unemployed? Are we to expect socio-economic biases? The poorer, the more likely to get the scholarship.
Also, in response to
Giving
that, I would
Richard the
say that,
space to respond to this one.
yes. Okay, so I was going to say that regarding financial need is something that's very touchy. I have to be careful in how you sell yourself or how you sell your financial need to an interview panel. You don't want to come off as, oh, I'm destitute, I'm poor. For example, you have a balance of 600,000. This grant is for 50,000, for example. if you make your situation look really, really bad, everybody in your family is unemployed, you couldn't get any guarantors to get student loan, yes, that may be a strong financial case, but the panel might be saying, but if we give you 50,000, you will still have 550,000 to pay, you will still have the upcoming school fee to pay. So they might be thinking, but that this wouldn't be a good investment. So you have to be moderate. It's not about selling yourself as the poorest. It's not about the poorest will always get it, or the worst financial situation that is presented will be selected. So you have to be moderate in what you're presenting. You don't want to come across as too destitute, and you don't want to come across as being too humble. If they ask about your financial situation, you tell them about your situation in such a way that you don't shoot yourself in your foot, if I may say it that way.
All right. Can
Thanks
I
for
add
that
on
tip,
something?
Richard. Thank you so much. So over to the next slide.
Can I add on something to that question? That answer before.
Sure, go right ahead.
All right. So back to that, with the poorest person. Repeat the question again, please, Kenisha, because I'm not seeing them.
Let me look in the chat for a minute. Okay, so the question was, do you think one would be at a disadvantage if their parents are unemployed? Are we to expect socioeconomic biases?
You know, as I was hearing Aishiba speaking about the Surgical Foundation, and I was recently shortlisted, and I went to an interview recently. Now, a question similar to that one came up about how, cause and then somebody just called ago responded in the sense that you cannot respond and look like you're the poorest, because imagine you going to them and tell them that yes, we know that you're poor because some scholarships are need-based scholarship. But why would we want to give the poor or the person that we know that after them get the $50,000 or them get the XYZ amount, they will not be able to finance the rest? Because I was asked in the interview, have I applied for student loan? And if yes, who were my guarantors? Because they want to see that yes, they might give you this, but at the same time you're going to get XY, you're going to find some other means around the place. And next thing that was asked is, how will I finance myself if I did not get this scholarship? Right? And you cannot tell them that I would have to just do, you cannot say to them that if I don't get the scholarship, I'll have to just go and don't bother go to school. That means that you're depending on their scholarship. They don't want to see that you're just depending on their scholarship. They want to see that yes, you're going to find other means. Tell them that you're going to apply for student loan. You'll be searching around the place for different scholarship, because I remember when I was telling the person that I would be applying for student loan, I'm looking around the place for different scholarship, and hence the reason why I found this scholarship. The person was like, whoa, you're the first person to actually say that you will not just stop. So they are looking for things like that because they know that yes, at the same time you're poor, and then they're also going to look on your parent background. My mother's a teacher, actually a lecturer, so you know that automatically some persons are going to see that you're not going to get it. But being a lecturer, being an accountant, with a single parent at the same time, you also have to look on that, because the person might get this XYZ amount, but after all the expenses that have come out of this pay, what is left, right? So you guys have to take those simple things into consideration, not say to yourself that because John over there, son, John look the poorest, John will get the scholarship. No, John may be the poorest, and you will be the person who actually go in there and have more money than all of the person, but you get the scholarship. It's based on how you sell your story and how you bring across what you want to bring across accurately to the persons asking the question.
I agree
Okay.
with Delmar as well. And that was one of the questions that I got on my scholarship interview last year. So a good answer would be is that you're in the process or you already have applied to student loan.
Okay. Good
Okay,
evening,
somebody
everyone.
wanted to open their mic. Kami?
My name is Camille Chambers. I applied for more than one scholarship, and recently I got email from two of them. I have an interview tomorrow, and I'm not sure of the other interview date as yet. As it relates to honesty, when I go to the first The interview that I have tomorrow is for a full scholarship, and the other interview is a grant. Would it be okay to suggest or ask the second at the second interview to allocate the funding to a different part of my tertiary education, as in, for example, my accommodation. So, for example, if I should suggest to them that, seeing that I'd be getting a full scholarship from elsewhere, if this money could go towards probably like hall fee or something of that sort. You understand what I'm saying?
Can I respond to this?
Wait. I want to.
All right, you want to go ahead first?
Both of you.
I'll try. I'll go first.
All right, you go
All right.
first.
So it's dependent on the scholarship conditions, because there are some scholarships. If it's a full scholarship, then they probably won't allow you to like use money from another location. So if it's a full scholarship, they're just gonna like, they say that you can't receive another scholarship from someone else. Is that if it's fully funded, that means like they're just gonna use my money and probably my money alone. I think that's how it operates in some cases. I think it depends on what you want to do too as well. Like if it's medicine, then medicine will basically allow you to have multiple. Well, it still depends on the scholarship situation itself, really. That's it. You can go, Richard.
All right, so let me respond to that. Like my answer is going to be no. You went to the first interview, then you're going to go to the second interview and tell them that they should allocate this. How did you know that you have aced that interview? Did they tell you? They are not going to tell you on the spot that you get the scholarship. So going to the second interview, you should not. As at the same time, when you're getting the check or anything, it's going to go directly to the school. No, it's when you are at the school, you're going to tell the school what to do with the money. Because every organization is going to give the school the money. You're not going to get the money in your hand. Now, if you tell the man, say, yo, I already get a full scholarship over John shop, automatically somebody will turn you and say to myself, first you get a full scholarship, somebody else in our midst don't have a full scholarship, don't even know what a scholarship look like. So they would automatically disqualify you right there. So there and then you have automatically failed yourself. Because I know many scholarships in Jamaica said ask, have you applied for other scholarships? Some scholarships want you to make their scholarship the only scholarship that you're depending on. No, we are Jamaicans and we find cunning ways of achieving things. And we know say really and truly we now can depend on one scholarship. So you do not at any point tell somebody that I'm getting a scholarship over John Shop. Because if you get a scholarship over John Shop, somebody will apply over Tom Shop, don't even have a scholarship. So as that's what I said before, don't do that. That automatically make you fail. So just don't ever tell him something like that. Tell him that just don't even look at that question. Don't
I
even
have
ask a
something
question
to
like
add
that.
when I'm finished.
You can go ahead, man. Just don't add a question like that.
All right. So in my experience, having interviewed persons for scholarships and having gotten multiple scholarships myself, I would suggest to you, as I think Amari said it, you don't want to mention that you're going to get a full scholarship if you have that in the runnings. But what I do know that can happen, because I have done this. So for 1 year, maybe you're getting a scholarship, is a full scholarship for 1 year. You did another interview. In your case, Camille, you do both interviews, you're not sure if you got them, but at the end, you end up getting both of them. In some instances, you might have to decline. In my case, what I did was I went to the bursar at my school and we worked out a situation where the full scholarship would be for 1 year and the money from the other scholarship, she used it as a carry forward. So they would apply it to your next year's set of tuition. So even though I was in first year, I had some money paid on my second year tuition. So you can find out from the institution if that is possible. I know you, for one, they do it because I interviewed persons. They came to the interview, they told us, we can't accept it because they got another scholarship. Luckily on the panel, there was I think the deputy registrar from UWI, she was on the panel. and she just did something on her computer, bam, bam, bam. She pulled up the person's record. She found the student's fees, and then she told the person, no, don't turn down the scholarship. If you're gonna get this one, we can work out a situation where you can be added to your fees going forward. So you never know what can happen if you're gonna get both. But if it's a case where you're not sure, then the better declare and put yourself in a situation where this person thinks that you're getting the other one, and then you lose both of them. But if you do both of them, and it so ends up that you get two, you can try and find out if it's possible. If it's not, then you just give up the one that is of lesser value.
Excellent answers, absolutely excellent answers. Thank you so much, Camille, for asking that question, because you gave us, something to really think about, and we got really excellent answers. Thank you so much. Next slide, please. So this one is for Armani. Go ahead.
All right, good evening, everyone. What is or are your ambitions? How will this impact self, others, your country, and the world? Well, of course, it's a very paramount question because, of course, this is a scholarship. Scholarships are investments, which means that whatever you get from it must be impactful towards other people. First, we have to start with yourself. When you get the scholarship, what are you planning to do with that scholarship? Of course, that's dependent on you. What do you want to do with it? I mean, like, firstly, university is an investment not only for academics, but also for other things, because university will mold you to become a leader. So you have to be careful about what you say. Don't just say some boring stuff about, I want a degree to increase my personal development so I can get a job. That's boring. Please say something that's like more impactful, something that's like, okay, I want this scholarship so that I can impart my degree to apply into different sectors of development. If I am working in sciences, I try my best to use my degree so that I can develop something that will basically increase diversification production for Jamaica so that we can increase trade. Something like that will help you. Also, it depends on the scholarship as well. If it's like something like NCB, maybe, NCB will ask you, how would this help you? Basically, like some of them, if there's a binding period for like the ministry scholarships, you have to tell them that, okay, I'm going to use my teaching diploma to help the, let me see, what can I say? The secondary school system increase passes in sciences, which are, in demand like mathematics and physics. You have to say you want to impact somewhere. That's important. Others, of course, we're building leaders. How can you impact others? That's a very important question. Are you going to own a program for people in need? Are you going to have a charity foundation? You want to own a scholarship foundation for yourself. That's something that they're looking for too. What are your plans, your ambitions? Your country, what do you want to do for Jamaica? A lot of people want to do a lot of things for Jamaica. They want to become MP, Prime Minister. They want to be involved in the political process. Or if you don't want to do that, then you can have a say charity foundation. You can look out for different parishes, look for, if it's even like probably 50,000 you want to give, if you're at that level of excellence, then fine. The world, what do you want to do to put Jamaica on the map? What do you want to do for, wait, is this on? Wait, can you hear me?
Yes, we're here.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Oh, because I was like, place was silent. Um, hmm. The world is obvious because you want to have impact. Jamaicans are very impactful people, am I right?
True, true, true.
Names are dominant all over the place. Everybody wants to make their mark on the global stage, of course, so tell them about that. What do you want to do for your field? What are your hobbies and interests? This is a very important question. This sets you apart from a lot of people. Like, for example, if you're involved in leadership of your school, if you like to do public debate, public speaking, if you like volleyball, swimming, basketball, what outstanding achievements have you done? Have you won a national award? Are you a national champion? Tell them what interests do you have. Is it like, do you like YouTube videos? You want to make your own YouTube? You want to something that sets the tone for you, that basically says that I'm outside of academics. I don't really care about like those other things. I want to do something other than that boring, stuff like bookwork only. That's not being well-rounded. Um, what does leadership mean to you? That's a very important question. What does leadership mean to me? Leadership means imparting my knowledge, my skills, my expertise, the way how I develop myself so that other people can be empowered and ready to take on the world. Leadership is about, as I said before, impact, legacy, and of course, having a mark. If you're not doing any of those three or integration of two or three of them, then you're not being a good leader. So it's about basically you can emulate people like Michael Manley, talk about what amazing stuff he has done for us. You can talk about what you want to do if you want to emulate him in terms of leadership. You want to drive focus in different areas of community service, volunteerism, get people involved, make a difference and have change. Leadership is very important. It depends on what type of scholarship though, because they'll ask you that. If it's like for a Governor General Award or like the Jamaica exhibition, they'll ask you that, I think. Yeah, these are more like leadership, like questions for government. They'll ask you that. Um, how have you used your leadership positions to impact the lives of others? First and foremost, set example. What's that? Oh, set example for others to follow. What are you leaders? What are you positioned for? Are you captain of your chess team? Are you the captain of your football team? What have you done? Have you given anybody advice to basically change them, move them up from a position of failing to a position of growing? Talk about the transitions that you have, how that position has affected you and how it has molded you, as I said before, related to personal conditions. Sorry, I need to take some breath.
Before Armani, continues, I'll allow him to catch his breath. This one as well, you don't have to say something big like, "Oh, you created this initiative that helped the entire school to do this," or the entire in St. Andrew to do this or that. You could simply, if you were a part of the club, how your leadership skills help you to achieve a certain goal of your club. Say, for example, you're the president. You, in your tenure, increased the number of students who were, joining the clubs, and as a result, you also increased their interest in service, volunteer service, or maybe science, robotics, or anything that they had to offer. It doesn't have to be something grand and extravagant. It just has to be something that impacts. So talk about how in what you might consider a small impact impacted somebody's life or the lives of many persons.
And to add to what Kenisha said, you also don't have to have a formal position, so you don't necessarily even have to be the president of something. For instance, you can start your own club or start an initiative as well. That would be also helpful. So sometimes you don't necessarily need a formal position.
That's true. That's true. And finally, where do your parents work? That's a measurement of financial need as well. They talk about what your parents do to basically give you a model of like what position they are, like if they're like have a degree or level of education to basically evaluate if you're the first in your family to move on. So to move into university, that's a very important thing. So just like, well, it's also a thing like if your parents are unemployed, like the earlier thing. So that's an issue as well to bring into dire focus the level of financial assistance that you actually need. So if your parents are teachers, then yeah, you have to be honest. So you can't forge a story or tell them something that's not true. You have to just tell them what it is. My parents are self-employed, so they measure that's okay. Business aspect. They might not make enough money as a business owner. My parent is a doctor. My parent is a teacher. Whatever the situation is, then that's if they work for government too, public, you know, there's some scholarships that are, let me see, what's it go again? Public, like they're public sector workers, yeah. They actually that. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Armani. Thank you so much for sharing those tips. And we'll move on to the next slide. We're almost finished. We're almost at the end. So these are some additional questions, and we'll just throw them open to our panelists, persons we have here with us. How do you intend to balance your academic and civic duties? So can anybody expound on how somebody should actually attempt this question? Is my mic on? Is it working?
Yes.
Right, I'll go
It's
ahead. I'll have to attack this question. Maybe everyone didn't hear, which is fine. How do you intend to balance academic and civic duties? So I would approach this question by thinking about how I previously managed them. So I, volunteer and involved in a myriad of things, and I have a good academic standing. So I think about how I've, implemented time management, prioritizing, and minimizing micromanaging in order to effectively and toward him. So you can go ahead and say, I intend to balance my academic and civic duties by improving my time management. So in the event that you weren't doing it so well, you can tell them that you plan on improving your time management. You plan on working with others within your civic service so that you can delegate tasks to make the workload easier. You can give them an academic schedule that you plan to create or that you have created in order to tackle the year ahead. And you can highlight instances in the past where you probably didn't perform as well that you plan to improve on in the future. So those are some areas that you could cover in order to answer this question. Or you can just tell them that you continue to do the things that you're doing now to show consistency. So you have a method already that you use, ensures that your grades are up to par and that your give back and it doesn't affect your academics. And so that can show that you're consistent and you are willing to improve going forward. So the second question
Yes, Kanisha?
is, what do you plan to do with this degree? Delmar, what do you plan? Yes, go ahead,
Oh, sorry.
Aikiva.
I texted that I would take that one. I hope that's okay.
Sure.
All right. So for this one, what do you plan to do with this degree? I think this question is really important because them really want to know after you get this, what you really plan to do, what you plan to do. Go sit down in the office and just go work like that. People don't want to hear you say, okay, I'm gonna sit in their office and just work. Nobody wants to hear that. And there are actually scholarship essays that actually ask you to expound on what you really are gonna do. Right. So for me specifically, I want to do, as I said earlier, I wanted to do digital marketing. And so what I said in the essay that I wrote is that really and truly, I want to be able to break barriers in the digital world in Jamaica. and just empower those within the digital marketing sphere to achieve breakthrough innovation. When I talk about something like that now, you can expound on what exactly I want to do. If you're going to be a doctor, all right, cool. After you get the degree, what are you going to do with it? You're not going to just go and say, all right, I'm saving people's life. What else are you going to contribute, not only to Jamaica, but the wider society? So added on to that now, what I wrote about, I mentioned civic engagement. If you realize the scholarship, it's like almost every question where them ask it link back to civic engagement or how you're going to help somebody. So I said, fine, I love community service. I love giving back to the community. So after I get this degree now, I achieve my breakthrough innovation and whatnot and whatever I want to be able to use my degree to help students in, say, the inner city to appreciate the importance of online branding, or personal branding rather. So I now create initiatives that will help students in the inner city to use social media to their advantage. And so, all right, I get the degree, this is what I'm going to do so that them can understand, say, yo, building an online presence is important so that they can make for themselves more marketable. So that is one way that you can go about answering that question.
I'm telling you, the responses to these questions are beautiful. I love hearing them. I love to hear them. Name someone. The third question is name someone with this degree, the degree that you're planning to pursue, you know, who is excelling, and expound on what they're doing in the field.
You know, for a question like this, to name someone with this degree who is excelling and expounding on what they're doing, I would basically, because I want to be a doctor, I would tell them the name of a doctor. I would give Dr. Gordon, who's always on TV and who's always doing some dengue mosquito things and those things. I would give his name and tell him that I want to be just like him. I would tell him that
Yes, and feel it
I would
cool.
be, yes, because I don't want to just be a stuck up doctor who's, as Aishiba said, around the decks. I want to be somebody who is going to be out there, you know, knowing the person's interacting, because at the same point, you know, we do know that, yes, you're going to be a doctor or you're going to be a digital media personality or something of that sort. But I don't want to, you know, most times those persons are stuck up. They're always around the decks and they're not interacting most times with persons. No, you want to tell them that I want to be like this person because this person is just not, they're different. They do what others don't do. Mr. Garden is always interacting, he's always providing jovial things to make persons laugh. And I want to be that doctor. I want to be somebody who gives a person who is sick a happy day. So I will give them that name, or somebody like, I would say I want to be like, suppose I want to be like my doctor at home, or if I want to be a lawyer, I would say I want to be, because my quiz coach was a lawyer, so I want to be like Mr. Williams, because Mr. Williams, though he's a lawyer, a well-known lawyer in Jamaica, he's always behind his brother who is the mayor of Kingston, and he's always going out. So that's the reason why I would just give them the names. I have to always take this into consideration. Yes, you can give them names of persons who they may not know, but if you give them names of persons who they do not know, tell them what the person do, and how the person is making a change, how the person is impacting persons around them, and all at the same time tell them why you want to be like that person. Because guess what? Every scholarship, no matter the type of scholarship, we want to see what you want to be, because scholarships are looking for persons who are leaders. You are, because if a scholarship shortlists you, it's because there is something about you that just stands out amongst, NCB, Sagicor, those scholarships, you have thousands of persons applying for them. But at the end of the day, they are going to shortlist a specific amount, a ministry scholarship. Mean you have bright persons, a lot of persons applying for those scholarships. Why you want to do this? That's the reason why you need to expound and tell them no. And as I said before, if they don't know the person, give more detail, like go in depth but not too in depth. Be concise what you're doing, but not too concise.
I'll
Excellent.
do one about greatness,
So
strength, and
our fourth
weaknesses.
question is, what are your greatest strengths and weaknesses?
Okay, for this one, obviously state a few things that you're good at, so don't give them about 10 things. You should list and explain, of course, a few things, for instance, about 3 or 4 things that you are exceptional at, and for strengths. And for weaknesses, you state and phrase it in a way where they know that you are learning and you're focusing on improving in those areas. So don't say, oh, I am terrible at time management, for instance. Instead, you can phrase it and say, I am working on, or I want to improve my time management skills, and I'm doing this through learning, for instance, downloading an app, for instance, on managing my time better, or creating a timetable. Just tell them what you're doing to work on your weaknesses.
I just want to add to what you said. Is AMICA?
Hello?
It's Joel.
That was Joel.
Oh, it was Joel, sorry. Right, so just in summation of what you said, I usually tell people if you're talking about your strength and your weakness, strengths, we usually get it, we usually nail that aspect. The weakness, sometimes we shoot ourselves in the foot, as Joel would have mentioned. You don't want to just say something that you're weak at. So I always tell people, you want to tell somebody a fixable flaw. So something, a flaw that you have, but it's fixable. So I'm not good at, I'm working on doing more public speaking, and you tell them how you're working on that flaw that you have or the weakness. And then another way that you can attack a weakness is you want to tell them a disguised strength. So for example, if somebody asks me what is one of my weaknesses, I always tell people I'm a workaholic. I love to work. And when I get some work, I just want to get it done right away. For me, that's a weakness, but it can't, how you phrase it, it's really a strength, because anybody would want to work with somebody who, as you give them something, they want to get it done. So you have to be mindful of how you phrase weaknesses. It's not just I'm bad at this, full stop. This is the situation, but I'm working on it. As Joel mentioned, you're downloading this app, you're following this book, you're listening to this podcast, and you're working on turning this weakness into a strength.
Thank you so much. And I'm really grateful for the second point about weaknesses. Sometimes we do indeed shoot ourselves in the foot. We do have a lot of weaknesses that we don't necessarily have to share with the interviewer, especially if it's not one with a solution that you can use.
All
So the
right,
last
so there's
question
another
is,
aspect.
who is your role model and why?
So that I'll take that one. So about this, the fourth question though about the weaknesses, just want to say one quick point. When it asks about weaknesses, is because they want to measure your, like they don't. Basically, you're not perfect, and of
Self-awareness.
course, you're not perfect, and as such, they're trying to basically understand you as a human being. So you have to basically find your 3 weakest points and try to basically say you're working on them as before. So 5 and final, who is your role model and why? As I said, you have to eliminate cliches like your father and your mother. But if that's who you look up to the most, then you have to give scenarios in which they have, shown their selflessness or shown to be shown to be suitable candidates for the role as your role model. But I would like to also say that role models basically have what characterizations do they have or values that basically stick out to you, because those are basically your measurements of basically what values you hold in the highest esteem. So if you like somebody who is extremely hardworking, give a situation and try to basically relate that person to you. Any situation that you try to basically overcome, how is your role model basically based on their actions advocated for why you love that person or respect that person so much? Role models have values in which are basically we want to become them. We want to basically walk in their footsteps and continue to what they have. How has that person molded you into the person that you are today? And what values do you love the most, basically? So that's what they're asking in that question.
Okay. Thanks so much, Armand. So we'll now receive some additional tips or strategies that we can consider going into the interview.
All right, so just it's a basic summary of some of the key pointers to take away for interview preparations. You always want to be prepared. So that means you're gonna research, you're gonna read up, find out from other persons what they may know about this organization, the foundation, the person who's giving the scholarship. You want to come across authentic. I think we stress this a lot during the presentation, be authentic. Even though you're practicing questions and you may be going through questions in your head, do not come across as rehearsed. Don't come across as fake, because the interviewers will see through the fake answers, the cliche answers, the rehearsed answers, they will see through them. So come across as authentic as possible. And then something we mentioned, but we didn't stress it much, about asking questions. It's very, very important to ask questions when you go to interviews. It's not just, okay, this is interview, and then you get up and leave the room. Always prepare questions before you go to the interview. Don't just wait till they ask you, do you have any questions? And then you say, oh, whoa, I don't have any questions. Prepare a question. You can prepare questions regarding the process. So maybe you want to ask them, so how long will I have to wait to get a response from you? You know, ask them about the process for the interview, something like that. You can ask them about the organization. You can ask them about their involvement. So maybe it's a marketing company that's giving out a scholarship. You can ask them something pertaining to marketing, to the health field, anything that the organization is involved in. Ask them something about their involvement in that sector. You can also ask them for some clarification on something that you weren't sure. Maybe you read something online, you read something in an article about the company, and you just wanted some, some clarification. And that really will set you apart when you do interviews. So always have a question in mind. Don't just go and come out of the interview and just say that it's over. Always have something to ask. It really distinguishes you as somebody who is prepared for the interview, and you took time to ask a question. And finally, I just want to encourage you to not be too modest when you're responding to questions in an interview. Sometimes we think that, oh, playing simple will get us. Sometimes you really have to sell yourself. Other persons are coming, you may not be the brightest, you may not be the neediest, but you really have to sell yourself in such a way that you come across as, even as they say, if you can't be the most brightest, you baffle people with bullshit, as my grandfather would say. And you really have to baffle people. Like, you may not be the brightest, but how you present yourself and how you show them that, I am here, I'm confident, and you put yourself together properly, as we said, it can really set you apart in the interview. So don't be too modest and don't be too boastful. Find a middle ground and really sell yourself in an interview that you do, and you should be good.
Thank you so much for that, Richard. Thank you so much. And as we are about to close, I could go to the last slide. I always say this to, persons that I'm working with. The best way to approach anything is to pray, practice, and execute excellently. We can't sit on hope and we can't sit on faith alone. Faith without works is dead, as the Bible has always, let us know. And as we are preparing for our interviews, I want you to remember that you have come this far and God has not forsaken you. And even if you haven't been shortlisted as yet, remember to, keep the faith. You applied for more than one scholarships, and so your chances are increased. And I don't want you to feel discouraged while you wait on the shortlisting process. If you're not sure if they're finished shortlisting, you can pick up the phone and you can call them, you can email them, you can let them know that you are still awaiting. It's to ask questions. And I just want to remind everybody that's going into an interview this week or next week that you should enter the room with confidence. Remember that you've come this far and you have a lot at stake, and you shouldn't think about that and get nervous. You should think about that and use that as a driving force for you to execute excellently in your interview. So are my few words as we're about to close. Thank you for sending the email addresses. Um, does anybody else from the team want to leave any remarks with or future scholars?
Sure. So, guys, good luck. I pray and I hope that you guys get an email this week, next week, the other week, shortlisting you guys for your scholarships or telling you that you get your scholarships. I really do wish you guys the best. And if you don't get shortlisted or if you don't get the scholarships, do not give up at all. Don't give up. Continue trying. You will succeed by any means necessary. So good luck, guys.
Yes, and I mean, you see, if you're feeling like the scholarship persons are taking too long to shortlist you, feel free to call them, because guess what? Maybe when you call them, they'll tell you something to ease your mind. So yeah, you can call them. I would suggest calling them rather than emailing them. 'Cause you know, person take a while to reply to their email. But yes, guys, just remember that they're going to take a while with scholarships as the persons in the group sending messages asking if this place shortlist persons as yet. Some persons are not going to tell you that they are shortlisted. But guys, just take into consideration that yes, you get an email soon. Just apply for as many scholarships as you see them. We the admins, as Kenisha see any scholarship, she's going to send it. As me see any scholarship, I'm going to send it. So as you see a scholarship and you have the criteria to apply for it, guys, always apply and pray as the Kenisha said, pray, practice, and execute, and trust me, you will get that scholarship.
Okay, so I want to thank everybody who, imparted the knowledge today. We are eternally grateful. We are so happy that you, took time out to, stay even longer than we had expected. But you certainly enlightened all the persons on the Zoom session today, and I am grateful. I learned things. I'm sure a lot of persons here learned things, and we are happy. Give us a round of applause for the persons here. You can just, click the clapping emoji, put the clapping emoji in the chat. We want to thank them for their hard work, dedication, and, all they've done for us today. And I will try to screenshot these email addresses in the chat so that we can send you PowerPoint or even a PDF version of the document that we had compiled. Thank you so much for participating. This session would not exist if you never came. We would just be sitting here on a Zoom call looking at each other. So thank you so much. And have a splendid evening.